Oh, we've got all sorts of news here concerning the Buckeyes and all of college football on Ohio State Live this week. The 2025 season, of course, is straight ahead, but 2026 commits, 2027 players in camp, and then news of a settlement that will affect everyone going forward. Appreciate you stopping by here at the Buckeyes Live Show, Wednesdays, 11 a.m. Eastern Time. 323 times we've done this. Steve Hellwagon here, of course, from Bucknuts. We appreciate Tony Gerdeman, of course, but he's got some other responsibilities today. Steve, how you doing today?
I am doing wonderful. What's going on?
What is going on? Well, quite a bit of news for the beginning of June for the Buckeyes, with a couple commits coming in that is holding down currently the number 2 class, according to 247 Sports. They went out to California, got themselves a defensive end off the edge there. So that's 2 California commits for the class of 2026, and then also a running back a little bit closer to home. So we can start with this edge rusher. His name is Khary Wilder, and he's a roughly top 25 player. We'll check out his numbers here in a second, out of the state of California.
Yeah, he was a guy that just committed to Ohio State last night. We got the good news. He is the number 246 player in the country, 26th best edge rusher, number 25 overall in California. So you're getting a top 25 guy out of California. He plays at Gardena, California, Sarah High School. Made a visit to Ohio State May 30th. Then UCLA, it appears, this past weekend. He had offers from everybody, 30 offers, and everybody under the sun for him. But he's a guy that obviously Ohio State is still looking for as much pass rush help as they can get. Our guy Greg Biggins from our recruiting analyst on the West Coast said that he probably projects best long-term potentially at tackle. He's already at 6'4", 250 and could put some more girth or strength on his muscle on his frame. 80-inch wingspan and huge hands, and shows off natural pass rush skill and can beat an opposing guard or tackle with quickness or power, and grown man strength, and can toss an offensive lineman aside. So that's the kind of guy you want at the point of attack, a guy that's going to control things. And as we said, he had a host of offers. Alabama was on his list, Georgia, Notre Dame, all of the luminaries, USC, Washington. So a good get for Larry Johnson. They had him on campus not too long ago, and Sarah High School, and that's SERRA, one of the top talent producing high schools in California, sending another player to Ohio State, Khary Wilder. He verbally committed to the Buckeyes, as we said yesterday, and a 4-star prospect. So again, they add another defensive end. He's a 2026 player, so he figures to sign in December and enroll in January, and will be with the Buckeyes next season.
Yeah, absolutely. So once again, Khary Wilder out of Gardena, California, to the Buckeyes, the second out of the state of California for this particular class that ranks number 2 in the country. And then much closer to home, Steve, Delaware, Ohio, and just outside of Columbus, produces a running back, and I don't want to mispronounce his name, but I guess it's Favor Akey.
Yeah, Favor Akey is how I would look at it. Delaware, Ohio, Rutherford B. Hayes High School there in beautiful Delaware, Ohio. Delaware, mostly known for one of the best county fairs in the country. They have the Little Brown Jug horse race there every year for harness racing, one of the big races. And I think the Delaware High School team is known as the Racers, I think. Delaware has never sent anybody, in my recollection, anytime recently to Ohio State. Now, the county has the Olentangy schools, and they've been very busy sending one player after another to Ohio State, but Delaware Hayes also plays in the same league and the OCC, and finally has got a guy to Ohio State. I could be wrong. Maybe somebody on here can correct me if they can remember when Delaware Hayes High School sent somebody to OSU. But Favor Akey, 6 foot, 190 pounds, kind of fits what Ohio State and now Carlos Lachlan is looking for in a running back, a guy that, when he gets to college will be carrying about 200 pounds. Just an incredible speed guy. And remember, remind me to talk about speed here in just a second, because we got a little bit of speed news for the Buckeyes as well that really came up amazing this past week with the state track meet. But Favor Akey, again, a guy from right here in the footprint. And I know that Ohio State's coaches were very excited to land him, a local guy and a guy that is going to project as, again, a running back for the Buckeyes down the line. Hudson Standish wrote this about him for our 24/7 site. Said that he's physically imposing between the tackles. He's run 10.9 in the 100, which is very good speed. And basically, you look at it, he also played linebacker. So he was also playing two-way snaps at his school, and a very physical player, finishes runs with physicality when needed, displays good one-cut ability as well. So sounds like he is in that Travion mold, that 6 foot, 200 mold that they seem to really like these guys. And another one coming in to play the running back position at Ohio State, a 2026 player. So 2 commitments for Ohio State for 2026 just in the last several days. And the class for 2026, as you mentioned, ranked number 2 overall nationally. They have 15 commitments, probably going to end up around 25 or so when it's all said or done. And again, kind of hard for me to understand with this new accounting how it's all going to work out, but they don't have to worry so much about the 85 scholarship number as they used to, as much as a 105-man or 110-man squad list for the upcoming season. I had talked a little bit about the state track meet, and I just want to throw in one note here, and I'm just going to go to the Ohio High School site to dig it up. But Ohio State's recruiting had a pair of players that are committed to the Buckeyes who were involved in the state track and field meet this past weekend, and it was held at the Jesse Owens Stadium there, just adjacent to the Woody Hayes Athletic Center. And one of them was a junior from Watkins Memorial, Jaden Ricketts. He was in the 100-meter dash for the Division I. I'm just calling up. I want to make sure that I get the exact times for these guys because they were incredible. Ricketts finished 4th in the 100-meter Division I race with a time of 10.5 seconds. And then the winner was a high school sophomore from Huber Heights, Wayne, they list him as Jameer Averett Brown. And he ran and won the Division I race in the 100 meters in 10.36. Now, Ricketts is a member of the class of 2026 for Ohio State, so he figures to enroll in January. As far as the last I heard, he was still on track to graduate in December and enroll in January. So that's probably the last time he'll run in the state meet, and he finished 4th. He was also on a champion relay team. I think it was a 4x100 relay team from Watkins that also won a state championship. And then Jameer Averett Brown from Wayne High School as a sophomore and in the 2027 recruiting class for the Buckeyes would have a chance to come back and maybe try and repeat as the 100-meter champion a year from now. But again, if he enrolls, I guess it would be in January of 2027, that would be it for his track career at Wayne High School. But shout out to those 2 guys for doing an outstanding job at the state track meet. Future Buckeyes bringing the speed. You don't need Southern speed when you got guys running 10.5 100-meter times and faster than that at the high school level. That's going to place you pretty highly in any state track meet in the country. So those guys, hats off to them as well.
And Steve, just to put a camper on one favor, Akey, his numbers look big time. So that's his junior season at Delaware. 150 yards per game, 1653 for the season at 7.0 yards per carry. You see the 15 touchdowns on the ground, 3 more through the air on 9 receptions, so 18 total touchdowns. And I'm sure he's looking to have a big senior season after, again, almost 2,000 yards total offense in 2024.
Yep. Congratulations to both those guys, Favor Akey and also Khary Wilder, for deciding this week to be Buckeyes. I know we can talk a little bit about the camp situation as well at Ohio State and the official visits that they've been having and everything else. So, yeah, it's a busy time for the coaches, no question about it.
See some good names and faces there in the chat. We appreciate you stopping by. Jackson, Sage, Tukey G, and others. Leave those comments and questions there in the chat. We appreciate it. Consider that super chat contribution, folks. Steve is showing up 323 times. We're not going to count a couple vacations, maybe, but he usually works around those. It's a Cal Ripken type performance out of Steve and Tony as well, even though I mentioned that on a day that he misses, but that never happens as well. So these guys deliver for us each and every week. We hope you appreciate the expertise. I think it's unmatched across the network in certain ways in regards to experience and the value that they bring. So we appreciate your contributions. Consider those. All right, Steve, you made it out to camp this week. Every time we come around to June camp, I'm hoping that the weather is favorable, because you and Tony mentioned from time to time that the jump from spring to the heat of summer is immediate. So hopefully you got some decent weather and that will continue.
Yeah, we've been very lucky this week. They had camp Monday and Tuesday, and today is a 7-on-7 tournament there. Amir Brown, the player from Huber Heights Wayne, will be there. Also, another really fast wide receiver. I think his last name is Guerrant, Guerrant, another highly rated wide receiver, easy for me to say, from the state of Michigan. I think it's Harbor Woods High School. His team will be at Ohio State today as well. And the Buckeyes working really hard to try and land him, no question. Before I get into the camp, I can just tell you, we touched on this in discussing, the commitment by Khary Wilder. He made a visit to Ohio State over the weekend of May 30th. Another guy who was with him that weekend was Luke Wafel, a defensive end from New Jersey. He visited Penn State this past weekend, came away very impressed with Penn State. So now it'll be a battle between Ohio State and Penn State to land Luke Wafel. They probably had Favor Akey. He visited this past weekend. Drew Evers, a big-time offensive lineman from Texas, was also in and was very impressed with what he saw. Currently at Ohio State, they have a couple guys, Darius Gray, an offensive lineman, the number 16 overall player in the country from Virginia. We saw him at the camp yesterday. He was not working out, but he was watching Tyler Bowen work with the offensive lineman at the camp. This coming weekend, they have got a ton of players coming in, a number of commits, as well as guys that they would like to flip from other schools and add to the fold. Our database has 14 guys coming in for visits this coming weekend. So campus will be a very busy place. and several of them are Ohio State commitments, including the safety Blaine Bradford from Louisiana, offensive lineman Sam Greer from Akron-Hoban, offensive lineman Max O.L. Riley from Avon Lake, linebacker C.J. Santa from Olentangy. We mentioned Olentangy in Delaware County earlier. And offensive lineman Tucker Smith from Glendale, Arizona, Sandra Day O'Connor High School. Those guys all commitments in the Ohio State class, and they'll be working alongside the coaches and everybody at Ohio State to flip a couple guys. One of them is Jameer Perez from Cleveland Glenville. Jameer Perez, defensive lineman. He's listed at 6'4", 360. We got to look at him up close and personal at the camp on Monday. I think he slimmed down to maybe the 340 range. I don't know, but awfully agile at 340 pounds. And Larry Johnson would love nothing better than to flip him from Florida to Ohio State. Obviously, Glenville High School has been a tremendous source of talent over the years. And another player from Glenville who was also at the camp Monday and also visiting this weekend is Sincere Johnson. And he's a 6'3", 240-pound linebacker, could project as a defensive end at the college level. And I'll mention one last top 100 player, Justice Fitzpatrick from the state of Florida. He is a Georgia commit, and he is supposed to be at the camp this weekend, and the Ohio State staff will try and flip him as well. Getting into the camp, they've had plenty of guys. Dogs are going nuts here. My son just walked up here. They've had plenty of talent at the camps the last week or so, Monday and Tuesday. The one thing to note is Brady Edmonds, quarterback from California, who's committed to Ohio State in the 2027 class. He has been at all three of the one-day camps and been very impressive for all of his camp stays at Ohio State, and a number of other players as well. No commitments out of the camp yet, but they have offered some players. You can write this name down, and one to remember. His name is Taelyn, Taelyn Mayo, from, I believe it's Duncanville, Texas, a cornerback in the 2027 class. He's ranked just outside the national top 100 right now. He was one of the most impressive players I saw between all 3 days of the camp, and he is 6'3" and a half, 185 pounds, 190 pounds. And, they talk about Revis Island, putting guys on an island as a cover cornerback. I think this guy Mayo is a guy that is going to be the similar type impact cornerback, 6'3". I mean, you don't see many corners that big. So he can blanket the earth, it seems like. Two-thirds of the earth is covered by water, and the other third is going to one day be covered by this guy, Taelyn Mayo, who was very impressive. They also offered another safety from Georgia yesterday, Tayshawn Poole, and then also, I believe it was a defensive lineman, Waylon Wooten, as well, from Georgia, who was offered yesterday. So those are some names in the 2027 class to keep it in mind. And last thing I'll say about the camp, I mean, I go back 30 years covering this summer camp, and in the mid-'90s, it would be the rising high school seniors who they were trying to get into these camps to earn offers. Well, fast forward, and this time of the year is now used for the rising high school seniors who you've identified to take official visits and make their commitments, as we saw with two guys this week. And what the camp is for the underclassmen, the guys who are going to be juniors, sophomores, and freshmen in the upcoming school year, to get to the camp and impress the college coaches and make a name for themselves. Ohio State had MAC coaches working, as well as small college coaches from around Ohio helping out running the camps, the three that we've been to so far, 7-on-7 today and another one-day camp tomorrow.
Steve, the first time I remember hearing that line about world mass land coverage concerning a player was I read that in a baseball all-star guide with Gary Maddox at the Philadelphia Phillies playing center field, and a Gold Glove winner And that was back in my, grade school days when I used to try to pass off those kind of books as book reports. And my teacher, after 3 or 4 of those, said, no more, Major League Baseball All-Stars of 1978 and NFL All-Pro players of 1978. Those
You're
don't
done with
pass
that.
as book reports anymore.
Give me a real book.
But I got away with that for a couple times. Jackson, thank you so much for the contribution there. Jackson taking the lead on that, does so much for us at the Voice of College Football, trying to push our Ohio State Voice of College Football subscriber base to 10,000 plus. And then also notes in here that the Bucknuts 247 Sports is approaching 20,000. So how about that?
Yeah. We have a lot of products that we put out there. We do a daily show every morning. Dave Biddle and Dan Rubin are the guys who kind of spearhead that on a daily basis. We also do post-game analysis with Dave Biddle, which is very popular. And then our guy, Patrick Murphy, will once a week do a Bucknuts happy hour as well. So, I think it's a very active YouTube channel. They keep it pretty hot over there at the Bucknuts channel. And you can look for the Bucknuts Morning 5. It's usually posted by 10 a.m. most days, some days by 11, but usually anywhere from 15 minutes to 30 minutes of Great Ohio State talk on a daily basis over there. And you can also find the link from our home site at bucknuts.com.
Excellent. So keep that in mind, everyone. And then for today's show, we have posted the link there in the chat. So we are requesting a super chat contribution for you to call into the show and talk to Steve and myself concerning anything about Ohio State football. Anything's on the table about the Buckeyes and, of course, an ever-changing landscape in college football. So, Steve, I guess we can transition from here to there in regards to this settlement that came down. And $2.8 billion going to the athletes that have participated since 2016. That's as far as the antitrust laws would allow that to be grandfathered in, going in the rearview mirror. But going forward, of course, we're staring at a $20.5 million budget that is allotted or allowed, I should say, per university, not for football, for all the athletics. And then, as I understand it, Steve, it's up to the university to determine, are we simply going to go by the accounting ledger and say football produces 82%, therefore it gets 82%, or if maybe those numbers get massaged a little to include some non-revenue sports as well. But $20.5 million, if that particular school so chooses to use it, which we understand there's quite a few schools across the country that will max out at the 20 plus million.
Yeah, this is a great change coming to college athletics again. And Ohio State is trying to stay on the cutting edge of what's going on. We're going to have an audience with the athletic director, Ross Bjork, tomorrow at 1 p.m. Eastern time. And he's going to give us an update and kind of a feeling on how Ohio State is responding to these challenges of staying up with the keeping up with the Joneses. I mean, it was Ross Bjork last year at the Big Ten Media Days who basically said that the Ohio State team that would go on and win the national championship in 2024 had a $20 million price tag. Then as we got into it, we found out that there were other teams like Texas and Georgia and a few others that also were probably in that same $20 million ballpark in terms of what they paid the players. And all of that was raised by the collectives. And that was the foundation last year at Ohio State that primarily spearheaded that. They announced this week that the foundation has kind of been melded into this new entity called the Buckeyes Sports Group that is going to be administered by Learfield, which holds a lot of Ohio State's secondary or tertiary media rights in terms of the radio show and the programs and radio network and these kind of things. They may also produce the coaches shows for television as well. So, that entity is going to oversee the NIL beyond the $20.5 million. The $20.5 million comes straight out of the athletic budget. And that figure was kind of determined at the NCAA level for the major colleges, Division I football schools to decide if they could want to spend up to $20.5 million. Some will spend much less than that. But so many questions. Who sets the ratio for Ohio State? Obviously, the answer is that football is going to command as much as 3/4 of that, probably $15 million. There are people throwing numbers out there that some schools are going to spend upwards of $30 million or more on teams in 2025, trying to take what Ohio State got in 2024, which was a college football playoff berth and a national championship. So we'll see how the money goes up. The $20.5 million is actually going to go up over time. Within 10 years, it's expected that'll actually be $30 million. And if let's just say a Big Ten school or an SEC school that wants to be competitive is going to need to spend probably $30 million on football and probably $7 to $10 million on basketball. Right there is close to $40 million. So if you want to be competitive across, Ohio State's got 36 sports, and you're not going to pay the athletes in the other sports quite as much, obviously, but women's basketball, wrestling, baseball, softball, hockey, in particular, at a place like Ohio State, are all going to have bidding wars for some of the top players. You're probably going to need $45 to $50 million a year, which means you're going to have to raise $30 million a year to augment the $20 million that's coming out of the budget. So crazy times for college athletics, that all of the athletes at a given school like Ohio State could command salaries between $40 and $50 million. But that's where we're at today. And we have a lot of questions for Ross Bjork. Our guy Dave Biddle wrote a column yesterday basically saying that it's a joke that there's going to be this clearinghouse from the accounting firm Deloitte and Touche, I believe, that is going to assess individually each student athlete their own personal NIL deals that will be above and beyond the school salary for these players to find out whether it's bona fide NIL or not, and not pay for play. And, Dave's point is the first time that clearinghouse turns down an NIL deal and says it's not bona fide NIL, then they're going to get sued. And that'll be the end of that system. And it'll be back to a complete total free-for-all where, there is no limit on spending and these kind of things. That's supposed to be some type of a guardrail that is supposed to keep spending from getting out of reach. But I think the court cases have already said you really can't limit what anybody is going to earn. So I guess we're going into uncharted territory here, Mark. I mean, I don't know what I'm even talking about, to be very honest with you, because, we're not under the tent. We don't work for these universities, and they don't share all of their information. Supposedly Big Ten and SEC schools have a boilerplate form that has been pre-approved that will go out to athletes and those who want to donate to athletes and be filled out. And it's supposed to be approval proof, to where if you turn what you're doing in this way, they can't turn it down. So perhaps that's what Ross Bjork will talk about tomorrow. Again, we're going to be asking questions about a system that we don't even fully know or understand, but should be quite a comedy tomorrow as we try and get to the bottom of it with Ross Bjork.
Well, Steve, we're all just kind of taking a stab at it. I will say this, that we did our Iowa show yesterday, and just minutes before we started the show, the University of Iowa announced their most recent collective that is unlike the other collectives that in the past have been cooperating with and working with the school, but this is solely the structure of the school taking on the NIL department and naming their general manager Scott Pioli, who's worked for the Browns and the Ravens and the Chiefs and the Falcons, and he's a buddy of Kirk Ferentz. So he's been brought on board. So they announced it kind of this way. Well, we got this $20 million over here that comes from the university that we're going to invest into athletics. Then we've got all these collectives that we've had in the past that we will continue to work with, the I Club and the this and the that and the Swarm, and they will continue to collect for facilities and upgrades and all these other things. Then we've got this newly formed, I forget the name of it,
Buckeye Sports Group
by
at
the
OSU.
university.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, what's that?
The Buckeye Sports Group at Ohio State. Yeah.
Okay. Whatever they're calling it at Iowa. And that is going to be something that people can contribute to, but they cannot name specific donations to players and say, we want that to go to the quarterback. We want that to go here and go there. It's just a collection that they will deem where it needs to go. And then you've got the fourth category of the boosters, the corporations, the NILs, whomever outside that has to go through the clearinghouse to say, hey, we want the quarterback to make $3 million and we want that guy to make, and whatever we want to donate, that has to go through the clearinghouse. And as you say, the first time that doesn't happen, we're either going to see a lawsuit or it's just going to kind of evaporate. And maybe we can assume that it was paid maybe like the good old days under the table somewhere.
Yeah, it's crazy. It's a mess. And, here's another question I have for Ross Bjork. Okay, I presume he or a committee that he designates is going to sit down on an annual basis and decide, okay, football gets 3/4. They get 15 million. Men's basketball gets 2 million. Women's basketball gets 1 million. And then the other 33 sports will split the remaining 2-3 million, whatever's left. And as my high school basketball coach said, a kid, when he got up at halftime, wasn't happy and put his suit on and walked out the door. Well, good luck to you, so good luck to you figuring all that out. I just think that how involved, let's say, they give men's basketball 2 million and, the Buckeye Sports Group / former collective gives them another 6 or 7 million to try and buy a roster of 8 or 9 million so that they can compete with the rest of the Big Ten and the SEC who have all this money. How involved is Ross Bjork in telling, let's say, the basketball coach Jake Diebler that, you shouldn't spend $2 million on the point guard, Bruce Thornton, only spend like 1.4 on him and then spend 1.1 on the shooting guard? Like, who's making the exact salary slotting decisions? Is this something where Ross Bjork is going to get involved with Ryan Day and say, no, you need to give Jeremiah Smith $5 million and Caleb Downs $3 million, and then we'll figure out the rest of the roster from there, out of your cut? I mean, who counts the money underneath the bar, as they said in We Built This City 1,000 years ago. So I don't know. It's a terrible mess. It's just a terrible, 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 awful, terrible, terrible, terrible mess is what it is.
It is going to be a mess, Steve. And I just can imagine. And obviously NFL players deal with this every day. They know who's making what in that locker room. And obviously it doesn't completely coincide with the skill level and the quality of the player. There are some inconsistencies there that are crazy, but I can't imagine, that the left tackle standing next to the left guard thinking, I don't know how you possibly, I'm the left tackle, I just won the left tackle job and you make 100,000 more than I do. And those sorts of things. Does it become a distribution like this? And obviously we're not going to find all these details out. It would be fascinating to be able to open it up like we did in a day gone by, Steve, of course, on opening day, where we opened up the USA Today and we read all the Major League Baseball salaries. That was always fascinating. But here do you say, okay, if football gets 15 million, that's about 150,000 per player, that take half of that, make it almost like a revenue distribution of media rights in the ACC, where you say, we're going to make it a baseline. Everybody works out, everybody watches film, everybody runs and trains and does the same thing. So about half of it will give everybody a base, and then we'll decide the other half depends on how good you are.
Yeah. I think that it's so wonky. I mean, they're talking about there's deadlines involved with this. Like this went into effect a few days ago, and apparently, any agreement over $500 needed to go to the clearinghouse beginning like 3 days ago. And there are athletes out there who've been asked about these different things, and they say they have no knowledge of any of this. So you've got, and apparently there are supposedly ramifications if stuff doesn't get properly reported. And yet you have people out there making deals who have no knowledge of any of this. And my guess is that schools are going to be convening Zoom calls very quickly with their athletes or meeting with them in person if they're on campus to begin working out, which most football and basketball teams are at this point because the summer academic term is underway, so they can squeeze a few summer 10, 12 credit hours in as they're working out. Really is a nice thing for these guys to stay on track and gals stay on track for their degrees, given the rigors the rest of the year. So, to me, there was one comment that you can't allocate anything for, let's say, the 2026 football season until July 1st of 2026. So you may have somebody who enrolls in January of 2026, but you may or may not be able to pay them until the new fiscal year begins in July. They're on your 2026 books, but and how are they going to circumvent that with under the table payments to keep these people floating in money for 5 or 6 months? I mean, you're going to get a transfer portal kid in January, but tell him, oh, we can't pay you till July because that's the rule. Whereas College X down the street will say, oh, don't worry about that rule. We'll get you $50,000 a month, whatever you need, we got it. There's going to be all kinds of people circumventing these rules. So that's one thing. The other thing is, okay, in January, we convince you to come to our college as a transfer portal person, and your overall package is going to be, let's say, $800,000. And don't worry about how or where it comes from, but it'll be $800,000. You will see $800,000 for your time at our school, your 6-month commitment to our school, to get you through the NFL draft. So on our end, $600,000 of that's going to come out of the school budget, the $20.5 million, but the other $200,000 is going to be, quote, bona fide NIL that we have to submit to the clearinghouse. We got you onto our campus under the guise of an $800,000 deal. We told you, don't worry about it. We'll work out the details. Then the clearinghouse jilts the $200,000. You're left with $600,000. You're already in class. You're already going through spring practice. The clearinghouse said, no, your deal doesn't pass muster. What's the school going to tell the kid? He's going to say, well, I could have got $900,000 down the street, and I took $800,000 from you, and now it's only $600,000 because you couldn't figure out how to file it properly with the clearinghouse. Is this what we're in for? Is somebody going to suddenly abruptly quit in March or April when their clearinghouse thing doesn't go through? And when your clearinghouse thing doesn't go through, are you allowed to go right back into the portal on a whim, on a dime, and get back out there at free agency again? I mean, there's so many unforeseen consequences. And of course, the biggest of all that nobody thought about was the Big East basketball doesn't have, FBS football. So they don't need to spend $10 million of their $20 million on football. They could spend $19 million on men's basketball and buy the top 5 players in every recruiting class for the next 15 years, and still have money left over to buy portal players. Whereas, Florida, which just won the national championship, probably can't spend more than $8 to $10 million because that's all they got. How is that going to work out? But the undercurrent of that is the Big East schools without big time football revenue coming in. 90 million from the Big Ten to Ohio State last year or whatever it was. Those Big East schools with their TV deal probably only getting 15 million from the Big East. They don't have the full 20 million perhaps to devote to NIL causes or player salary causes, however you want to put it. So, how much of that 20 million can they actually fund? So what a fun new frontier that we're in. A lot of unforeseen consequences that nobody thought of.
And Steve, according to the article that I read detailing the settlement, the clause of enticement is still not allowable within this structure to a high school athlete to come to a school. We know that it is, but by the letter of the law, that's still not supposed to happen. How do you sell the high school athlete to come to a particular school if you're playing by the rules? Did they just know that we have this structure in place and we're going to project a number? But if everybody's abiding by the rules, then you are not supposed to be enticing anyone with a particular NIL package before they're signed.
Yeah, it's just so convoluted. And here we are, I'm supposed to cover Ohio State football and should know this backwards and forwards how it's all going to work. And I think it's deliberately keeping a lot of people, including student athletes and their parents and their street agents, in the dark because they want to deal with each person on an individual basis and cram down the lowest amount of money that they can pay that person to get them to still come and play for their school. And that way they have more money to pay other people. So it is, again, a situation where they're holding all the cards. They have all the money at their disposal and are going to, dole it out in the most fiscally responsible way for the group. The bottom line is to build a team that wins a national championship in all these sports. And so that's the goal. You can't overspend on 1 or 2 star players. And yet, we know schools are going to do that just to get the eyeballs and the attention. Like a Texas Tech in basketball seems really gung-ho. They've got a guy who's donated a bunch of money for Texas Tech basketball. Just different places are going to go and have different priorities and different ways that they're going to manage the salary cap.
Steve, the accounting I would love to see would be, number one, how many athletic programs across the country are going to max out on the 20.5 million? I don't know if
there'll be some ACC and Big 12 that don't because they don't have it. They're break even. They're break even at best. Some of those ACC and Big 12 schools, particularly the Big 12. What's left there? There's no Texas and Oklahoma in that league anymore. Rainmaking for the rest of those people. It's one horse operations. Lubbock, Waco. It's not, Manhattan, Ames, Morgantown. There's nothing there. There's just
Manhattan, Kansas, Steve, but it's not Manhattan.
Not Manhattan, New York. It's Manhattan, Kansas. It makes you wonder how they're going to keep up, or are they going to be, subjugated even further? And of course, with the playoff last year, we saw what did ACC and Big 12 only get 1 spot each? Is that right? Last year, they only got
the ACC got 2.
ACC got 2. They got Clemson in, or Clemson was the champion, and SMU led the whole season. Was that their first loss? Or had
Yes.
they had That was their first loss in the
That was their
championship.
first conference loss.
Okay, they had lost to BYU.
They lost to
wasn't it?
BYU.
Yeah.
Yep.
So,
Well, think about this. Now that you bring up the issues that some of these ACC and Big 12 schools will have, this is the first sports season that the ACC is not going to a equal revenue distribution. They're going to this 60-40 model where only 40% is equally distributed. The other 60 is based on TV numbers. And so what I did, Steve, is I took the ACC football TV ratings over the last 2 years, and I made up a model to distribute that 60% based on what they get. I passed it by a few people who should know what they're talking about, and they said I hit it fairly close, and that would stretch. So the ACC, they're around 45 million that they get in their TV rights from ESPN, Disney. So that's about 80 to 90 million over 2 football seasons. Florida State, they stretch to like 130. Clemson stretches to like 130, not 80 or 90. And that means Wake Forest and some of those schools, they're down at like 17, 18 million. So that they've lost this 40 million per, and it drags them down into the depths. Stanford only gets a 30% share. SMU gets nothing. Stanford and Cal signed up for 30% of an ACC share. Let's not forget our friends out on the West Coast. Oregon and Washington only signed up for a 50% share from the Big Ten.
Yeah, that's a bargain.
Maryland and Rutgers are still looking for their full share.
Oregon is a great bargain at whatever price because they do bring some cachet and some eyeballs, definitely. But and USC and UCLA, they're going to bring it Los Angeles, which is important. But I wonder is, in all this jockeying for playoff, the 5 conference champions, and then I think they're talking about plus 11 to get to 16 teams, and it would just be the best 11. Is that what it would be if they go to that after the 5 conference champions? I mean, if you take the Lindy's book, which I just did a review on Bucknuts of, Boise State was the highest group of 5 champion at number 26. So they would go in as the 12th seed. Now we know in real life, if Boise 16th. State's 12-1 and wins the Mountain West, they're going to be ranked like 15th or 18th or something like that. So it won't be quite as bad. But, you're going to take a team that's ranked around 20th to get that last qualifying spot. And then, but again, we're stretching this to 16 teams. Team number 15, 16 really doesn't have a leg to stand on, in my opinion. I mean, I never really thought that Team 15 and 16 was an actual national championship caliber team. So, and you probably, it'll be just like when Purdue as a 1 lost in the NCAA tournament. There'll be a year where a 16 beats a 1 at their stadium. And, I don't know how many years it'll take till we see, one of those top 4 seeds to lose at home in the first round to a team that, shouldn't even be in the freaking tournament to begin with, but, whatever.
Now, don't get me wrong. I agree with you, Steve. Team number 15, 16, shoot, many years you could drop that down to team number 7 or 8, have no shot at winning a national championship. But I'll sure have a lot of fun lining up all the 9 and 3 teams that missed the playoffs to say, why didn't they get in? The resume looks about the same. I've ran the numbers for the last during the college football playoff era, and it's fun to see the log jams of teams. Some years it's like 5 or 6 deep for like 2 spots, and there is little to separate Virginia Tech from UCLA, from Kansas State, from Wisconsin to across the board in the past. Jackson, we appreciate you. Thanks for the super chat here. I forgot to say, let's get Buckeye Huddle to 40,000 subs. I did not mean to leave out Tony and Kevin Noon. That was an error on my part. Jackson, we appreciate it. Thank you for that, sir. Also want to remind everyone that if you look at the ticker down below, that we've got 3 tiers of membership that you can align here with us at the Voice of College Football. $2.99 gets you the Block O Club. Then you get the JT Wasn't Short, $4.99, and then we don't give a damn at $9.99 for that.
Come here.
Oh,
I
we got
want
a
to
guest
show
on
off
the
my
show.
dog.
Oh, we got to see. Dogs are
This is
usually
our little
cute.
puppy.
Oh yeah, he's a
He
cute.
was with us like a couple months ago when she just moved in.
Yeah,
This is Peaches. My wife and kids called her
cutie.
Peaches Sawyer. It's a she, little sweetheart. She was little itty bitty when I first showed her, and now look how big she is.
Wow.
She's getting so
she's
big.
filling out.
Yeah.
Hi, Peaches. You're a cutie.
She's growing like a weed. Yep, she's good. They called her Peaches Sawyer. Yeah.
That's great.
Yeah.
All right, we'll dedicate this show to Peaches.
Yep. She's growing like a weed. We are feeding her, and she is growing.
Steve could use a few extra bucks, everyone. To
buy dog food.
The dog food budget has soared in recent months.
Jesus. You aren't kidding. 3 dogs. I need 3 dogs like I need a hole in the head. That's what I say, but I do like the dogs. So
you're at 3, I'm at 0, and I love dogs, but I just don't want to take care of one. And my kids are constantly telling me, especially my daughter, you need to get a dog. You need to get a dog. I don't want to mess around with a dog. Every time I leave town, I got to think, okay, what am I going to do with the dog? Or I want to leave all day. What am I going to do with the dog? So we haven't made that decision. All right, Steve, I think we've done pretty decent work here today, unless there's anything else you wanted to cover.
Not so much. I want to do a deep dive on Ohio State and Texas, that being the first game. Our Texas publisher was in touch with me, and we're going to collaborate on some stuff. And what I want to look at are the projected starting lineups for both teams, compare recruiting rankings, compare number of games started, on-field production, how they did if they played in the game against one another last year in the national semifinal game, and just really do a deep dive personnel-wise. I think we're going to come and find out that Texas, obviously Ohio State's only got 8 starters back. Texas probably has the more experience in this situation roster than Ohio State has, but we may find that Ohio State has, in terms of recruiting rankings or 4 or 5 stars or whatever, a quote more talented lineup that they're going to put on the field. So just to get an idea, of the balance, we've seen Ohio State in a lot of these games. Let's say when they play Missouri, on paper, in that Cotton Bowl that didn't go very well a couple years ago, or Clemson in some of the playoff games and different things where Ohio State has this decided edge in 5-star, 4-star, and even 3-star players over the opponent. And does that really impact what the final score of the game is going to be? In some cases it does, some cases it doesn't. So to me, I'm just trying to, how can I present all this information in a way that it makes sense and, use it to propel forward the idea of what kind of a football game we're going to be in for on August the 30th, which is 2 months and 2 weeks away. So here we go.
I like the idea and the concept, Steve. I'll be looking out for that, and obviously we'll promote it here because I enjoy those kind of breakdowns. And I do think,
looking at, and again, the quarterbacks don't square off against each other. And I'm not going to say Texas has to give a check mark because Arch Manning's played in 10 games and Julian Sands only played in 3. But, in general terms, we'll say this category, Texas has an edge. In terms of games started, Ohio State has an edge. In terms of recruiting ranking, Texas has an edge, that type of thing, to kind of as an overall, thing. To me, it doesn't mean anything when you say, Arch Manning and Julian saying, give Manning the check. They get the edge at quarter. That doesn't mean anything to me because they don't play against each other. It's how good Julian saying is against the Texas defense that's what matters. I've never understood that you've got to give them a check mark for running backs and them a check mark for wide receivers. The game's not decided that way.
No, it's not. They don't play the other position player.
Yeah, the opposing number.
I understand the comparison that if you go down the line and but yeah, that's not the matchup. That is not the matchup. And obviously the transfer portal has really played with the recruiting rankings to a certain extent. Teams like Michigan have bulked up through the transfer portal and made up for a disparity in talent, elite talent, for example.
And Ohio State's going to start a guy who played his entire college career at Rice at left tackle, probably a 2-star guy, from way back when. He's going to start, Ethan Anianwa is going to start at left tackle, just like, their previous left tackle, Josh Simmons, came from San Diego State, probably a 3-star guy who Justin Fry knew from football camp. And then somebody turned him on and said, oh, yeah, I remember that guy. He's done what at San Diego State? Hell yeah, get him in here. So how does Ethan Anianwa, and I don't know what he was coming. I don't know where he went to high school. I don't know what he was coming out of high school. I'm going to venture to say either a 2 or a 3-star going to Rice, and we're going to compare him to Texas's left tackle who could have been a 5-star, so again, they don't play against each other, but we get looking at different things. It's kind of weird.
According to the 247 profile on Ethan Anianwa, that's the first time I've ever tried to pronounce his name, 74th rated interior offensive lineman coming out of high school, number 74 in the country, the 178th rated player in the state of Texas.
Had to be
national ranking.
Had to be like a 2-star, I would think. I don't even if he has any stars. I don't even know.
He's at 3.
3. Okay.
That's a wide range, that 3-star category.
What part of Texas? Where was he from? Houston, or where was he from?
Katy, Texas.
Texas. Well, Katy,
Texas.
Yeah. At least we've heard LA. At least we've heard of Katy, Texas. So.
Oh yeah, that Houston surrounding area. Every so often somebody will produce some kind of metric on the number of NFL players. It's unbelievable. And the number of 4 stars. It's crazy.
Yeah, Dallas the Metroplex gets all the hype, but Houston does create a lot of talent. And obviously, Houston Metropolitan, people don't think about this. It's a top 10 market, I believe. So, especially after the people from New Orleans, fled there in mass after the big hurricane a few years ago. But it's there are pockets of our country that produce talent like nothing you've ever seen. Ohio is probably in the 4th or 5th spot in terms of talent produced per capita, I would think, in that range. So Texas, Florida, and California are clearly the 1A and 1B, and Georgia has got to be up there now too.
Georgia is making strides, no doubt about that. They've, in some categories, caught and surpassed California. It's a close race now for number 3. All right, everyone. Catch Steve at 247 Sports. Bucknuts. Anything in particular to highlight this week, Steve?
Well, going back to the camp, we have pictures of the last 2 camp days on our site now. Bill Kurlick and Patrick Murphy and myself have done interviews with a number of the key prospects. We'll be back there tomorrow. And that's pretty much everything. There's one more camp day this week and one more next week, and the 5 days of the camp will be over. So we are looking forward to when that happens. And it'll be pretty much quiet till mid-July with the Big Ten Media Days in Las Vegas coming up at that point. So looking forward to that.
We are mighty proud of our new website, vocfb.com. So check it out, vocfb.com.
Awesome.
Sign up, and then you can jump into the forums and talk college football right there.
Awesome.
All right, folks, appreciate you stopping by. Make it a habit on Wednesdays, 11 a.m. Eastern time. And in the meantime, check out Steve's work at Bucknuts 247 Sports, and we'll make it on back here next Wednesday.
Take care.